Okay, we're on.
It's so silly that it's even like a thing to be nervous about, but
Well, that's how the whole society is built on. It's built on like chopping up the consciousness into this like start go stop go type nonsense.
yeah, and like
It's like beep beep beep. It's 6 a.m. Start. Like
be
no,
this
I've been
person.
going this whole time. What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And just the whole idea that you're supposed to be this specific person here and this other specific person over here, and
Yeah, role
all
playing.
fragmented and gross.
Role playing. But
Yeah,
like role playing is good, but we can do better. Like we can do better.
a lot better.
Okay, so to introduce everybody, this is Andrea, and
Hello.
crap, sorry. So you're from North Carolina, and somehow I think you wrote a comment on a channel, on a video that I made,
I think so. Yeah.
and let's see, YouTube and Instagram is Hazel and Sage, right?
Yeah, that's me.
And I was interested. I saw a little bit of what you were talking about with being in the Jehovah Witness clan and having a lot of things going on with that. I didn't watch too many of them, but I got a decent impression of the kind of the stuff you had to go through, and also you have experienced psilocybin mushrooms, and that's been a
Yes.
thing apparently, and also living out of a trailer home or something for a year or two.
RV, yeah.
RV,
Yeah.
yeah,
A semi-functional RV.
yes.
Yeah.
So if you would like to expound on any of those things, we can use that as a starting point.
Oh, all right. Sounds good. Where should I start?
I don't
what
know. Wherever you want.
what do you want to know specifically?
Jehovah's Witness. How did you get into that? Were you born into it?
I was not born into it. No, I was dating a guy who was a witness, and I decided I was raised Southern Baptist Christian, like hardcore evangelical, the whole bit. Um, so I decided I was gonna study with the Jehovah's Witnesses so that I could learn what they believed and prove them wrong and like save my boyfriend's soul from hell, basically.
Okay.
And like a week or two into the study, I realized I couldn't back up any of my beliefs, and I started falling in line with what they were saying because it just made sense, and I kind of, on some level, wanted it to make sense so that I could be with this guy.
Hmm.
So,
Okay, I see.
so it's all like a weird, but I was already so brainwashed with the religious mindset that it was easy to just sort of change a few things and fall in with another one.
Was there any chance that you didn't have a strong sort of social fabric in your EV free community, and maybe the Jehovah's Witnesses use that as like a ploy,
What's an EV free?
or evangelical? Sorry, like
Oh, got you. No, actually, I was really tied into that. Like, it was a very difficult thing to take myself away from that. It was,
so it was maybe more about your boyfriend like wanting to
yeah,
be with
yeah,
him.
it was a super intense thing. Yeah,
Okay. And how long did you stay in there?
5 or 6 years.
5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Wow. So how is Jehovah's Witness different from evangelical Christianity?
So let's see. There's no hell, and that was a big thing for me because I was like, great, nobody has to go suffer forever when they die. they just basically they just cease to exist in
Oh
the
wow.
mind of a Jehovah's Witness. They just disappear forever.
Okay.
Like
That's
they're
like
erased
a
from.
step up.
I guess, yeah. If you want to call it
I
that.
mean, that would be Aurora's entropy, right? That she talks about.
I guess,
Kind
sort
of.
of. Yeah.
It's like a dissolution of the ego self, and like instead of
hmm
sending it into hellfire, you're letting it dissolve into the fabric of the whole, right?
Yeah.
That would make
Yeah.
that would be a more nice,
More loving.
more loving. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's why I fell for it. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. It doesn't make sense that God would, send his own creation to be punished for forever,
Hmm.
you know, because of a thing that wasn't even their fault.
Right.
So that's one of them. That's another one. Um, you don't go to heaven as like your eternal reward. You go to a paradise earth
Okay.
and that happens like after Armageddon, which is like, tomorrow.
Yeah. So like a new Earth kind of thing.
Yep. Yeah, and I love the idea of that because, I was pretty much like an idealistic thinker, I guess, and that whole paradise idea really appealed to me. So
Yeah.
that pulled me in pretty hard.
That appeals to a lot of people, even not necessarily if you're gonna go bipolar with it and say it's like absolute heaven where just nothing bad happens. Even if you just say upgrade your Earth experience, I think that idea appeals to a lot of people. Like upgrade to where there isn't a constant threat of war. It's more of like a background home that kind of keeps people on their toes a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you can upgrade the main mentality of Earth, right?
Is that
Hopefully.
what's happening here?
It's a theory. I'm not saying that's a thing, but if you want to call it like people becoming more aware as a whole, or maybe the more aware people connecting with each other and bringing in new energy for the others to see and kind of like vibe off of whatever you want to call it. It's a something that's happening. It's undeniable, at least to me.
Yeah. I feel like, well, some days I feel like it is, and other days I'm like, oh God, what is going on?
Oh, the bad days are real. I had one yesterday.
Oh, yeah. I was right before you. I had a few over the weekend that were, wait, what's today? Wednesday. Yeah, my weekend was hellish.
Yeah.
But it's alright.
I mean, it's good and bad. Stuff is going on.
And,
purging is happening. Like, it's hard to relate to so-called normal people and how they purge stuff, because they're like talking about situations, and sometimes with different people it can be like more subtle, nuanced nonsense that doesn't like correlate with the regular like perception of what you're getting upset about. At least that's how it is with me. I can never just tie it directly to like a situation that happened. It's always multifaceted and hard to understand.
Got you. Oh, yeah, I feel you. Yeah, it's horrible and it's perfect at the same time.
Yeah. I lost the train. Okay, so we were talking about Jehovah's Witness, and
yeah.
What was the bad part of it for you? Why did you get out? Like, why did you feel like the urge or the need to get out?
Well, it pretty much ripped me away from all my family.
They weren't in it? None of them joined you?
No. No, they did not. And
was it like active opposition, or did you ask?
For a little while, yeah. And then once they realized I was, in it, I was really in it, then they just kind of backed off. But as a Jehovah's Witness, you're really not supposed to have any contact with non-Jehovah's, not contact, but you're not supposed to have like close relationships with non-witnesses. So like and they don't celebrate holidays or birthdays or anything like that. So I wasn't able to go to all of the family things that I had been going to my whole life, with the holidays. And because my family is very all about the birthdays. Like, we get together at least once a month for all the different birthdays for cousins and aunts and uncles and everything. So I had to stop going to all those and stop going to Christmas and all that jazz. So and also, you just don't have the same things in common anymore. You don't have much to talk about because, once you go past a certain point, then it gets into the things that matter in life. And if the things that matter you disagree on, as far as like spirituality, there's only so far you can go as, in a conversation.
Right.
So all the relationships just got really strained and really distant. And yeah.
And so that was the point. So you reached like some sort of a tipping point with that, where the church seemed no longer worth the sort of toll.
Well, no. What actually got me out was that I separated. So I ended up marrying that guy that I was dating, so I ended up separating from him. And during that time, I stopped going to all the meetings. Jehovah's Witnesses have like 5 meetings a week that you have to go to.
Really?
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's like you just work all day and then go to a meeting and study your Bible and go to work the next day. You know, like it's just nonstop. You don't have time for anything else.
So it's called meeting. It's not called like church service or mass. I wouldn't call it mass, but it's not called like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's called meetings.
Okay, that's an interesting point.
Yeah, so I stopped going to all the meetings when I left my husband, and I had all this free time to just sit around and think, you know, for the first time in a long time, alone by myself, like, what is really going on here? And I also started spending more time with my family.
Before you got out of the church? Before you got out of the church?
No, when I got separated from my husband.
Okay. And
was
there like a severance point with the church along with that, or were you still in there?
It was all sort of like interwoven.
Okay.
So I went like, I kind of stopped going to the meetings and started having these doubts, and then I started going back to my old church for a little while and got it all in there for a bit and thought I had myself convinced that that was the true truth again. And somewhere along in there, I decided that I definitely, like my husband and I were not getting back together, and I was definitely also not going back to Jehovah's Witnesses. And then I stayed with the church for like a few months later, and then I worked my way out of that whole mindset and into like, all of this is bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a long, hard road.
And what point, using the present as a reference point, at what point did you hit the all is bullshit period in your life? Like, how many years ago was that?
That would be 2009, I think.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Wait, is that right? Yeah, has to be 2009. Maybe 10.
And did you ever get back into any organized religion, or I'm sure you probably researched some things since then, but you kind of stayed out of the scene?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely missed like the sense of community, and like it was always church and Jehovah's Witnesses were always like a way to sort of give back to the community. Like with my church, we would go do all these missions, like feed the homeless and give out blankets to the homeless downtown, and just all sorts of little things to help out, you know.
Yeah.
And so I really missed having that avenue of like a group of people to go do good things with for humanity. But I don't think I haven't really like really searched for like a new group of spiritual people. I've been more and more distrustful. I guess I kind of got into the New Age a little bit, but not with a group, just more like online.
Yeah.
Reading and watching stuff. But and some of that stuff is really dangerous too, but
It's the what?
some of the New Age stuff is super dangerous too.
Yeah.
But
it's like the more people that are subscribing to a thing that make it like a meme or a weird archetype, that's the kind of thing that you gotta like distrust a little bit.
Yeah, and so for me it's been like a learning process of like learning how to trust myself, learning, you know, which ideas. It's just been it's a lot. Learning discernment has been a huge thing, and I'm still not quite there, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, also, you know, like being curious about things and getting into them, it's not a bad thing. I wouldn't even say like I've had cues that have invited me to like go do the church thing, but you know, like as an experiment rather than as like a full believer. But then I kind of felt like, oh, that's kind of disingenuous, and it's more, you know, like intrusive and stuff. So I kind of, but at the same time, like we are literally free to do things like that. It's all like you said, like do what you want basically. But so long as your own moral fabric is good, then you know you're not gonna like betray yourself essentially.
Exactly. And honestly, like what I learned, one of the things I learned most from the mushrooms is that like every perspective is valid. So like the Christians are right in their own, like from their perspective, they're correct.
Right.
given their life experience, their what they've been brought up in, their programming, their everything all combined together, their perspective is accurate.
Right.
And it's so weird, but it's true.
Yep.
It's crazy.
And you can, one of the things I learned is that I can approach people that are really into these things, like that's their very firm base ground kind of framework reference, and I can approach that with respect without like shitting on Christians, basically, because
right.
that's how the sort of the manipulative dark forces use the religion to get people like warring against each other, and I don't need to do that, you know, like I just say no thank you, and I can respect you for what you're doing, and we don't need to get into a massive hissy fit about it, you know, like.
Yeah, I think that it's kind of a fine line between, you know, trying to help someone out of that kind of mindset, especially, I guess like with all religions, it's sort of the same on some level, because most of them, if not all of them, are waiting for some kind of savior to fix things, and they're basically throwing their lives away in the process, you know? And so I struggle with, like, how much do I just leave them alone, and how much do I try to show them that, like, hey, you can fix, like, we could create paradise here right now. Stop waiting for, you know, whoever to come and do it for you.
Right.
You know? But they're just so stuck in, like, you know, paradise is coming, it's on its way, we just gotta wait our whole lives, like, and then you're dead. Then what?
You know what that, you know what that actually is? It's delayed gratification.
It's so sad.
Because, like, think about it, you know, unless you believe that souls are just disintegrating or they're going to go to paradise, like, if those are kind of your options, then, okay, well, maybe they'll end up there, but if it's delayed gratification, they're sitting there on this baseline groundwork framework, and then they get there and it's something different, still, like, all of that pent-up kind of energy will still act as a crucible for them, as like a firing pit to hone some sort of energy, regardless of whether, like, they end up in paradise or whether they wake up and they're like a billion what the fucks at once, you know. Like, however it happens, it's gonna still give them something.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, who really knows? We have so many people having the near-death experiences, and, you know, I feel like it's all out there. There's not any more disclosure happening, really. Like, the disclosure is personal, so how much you want, you can get. If you don't want any of it, then be in your religion and have all the comforts of that, and you don't need disclosure. Like, until the world actually ends and you see, like, the hellfire raining down, or like the nuclear, you know, thing is happening, then don't worry about it if you don't want it.
Yeah.
Unless they're intruding on you, because, like, it does make a thing with the family, you know, if you're having tensions because of they're still in that, and you see them as, like, stuck and frustrated, and a lot of them are stuck and frustrated, regardless of. Some of the most religious people I know are the most emotionally distraught people, and you would think that it should, if it's a loving God that's manipulating the thing, you know.
Exactly. That's what's so frustrating. You see them struggle, you want to help, but you know that the help that you have to offer is, like, the opposite of what they want to hear, or are even willing to hear.
So, describe Jehovah. Like, what are your gut feelings about this entity?
Oh, he's an asshole. Not anybody that I want to worship. So, you know what I mean? Like, that's one of my things with my mom, especially. Like, you know, she's so worried that I'm gonna be sent to hell and be tortured forever by, you know, because I'm not worshiping this specific God of hers. And my question is, like, then why are you like, if your own daughter is gonna go suffer at the hands of this God that you supposedly love, like, how can you love that God?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
there isn't an answer to that question. That's really yucky for people like that, and I've been in the same situation, and there isn't an answer, so it just creates more.
No.
It creates more angst. Like, it's literally like a. It's bad for them. It's icky for them to contemplate that notion. But
Yeah.
it's probably important, you know. It's probably an important thing to consider, and you know they're gonna deal with that how they deal with it. But as far as people who are on the outside go, that's a very valid thing that you just brought up. It's very valid because if you're able to contemplate having an afterlife, right? If it's not just all woo woo, like, well, God does everything, you know, like that's kind of how a lot of people say. It's like, no, if you have any contemplation about it, if you have any imagination about what the thing's going to look like, then you should be able to address the simple question of why should I be separated from my daughter for all of eternity? Like, it's a simple thing. It's not very complicated.
Right. Right.
And God should be able to answer to that as well. Like, in some way, that thing should be able to be addressed.
Exactly. And it really can't be.
No.
It really can't be.
Not in terms of traditional dogma, but the dogma also does in a very, very slow, like creeping sludgy fashion. It does kind of like creep on, and you do see people change, you know, like I've seen people change. It's not easy, and they don't like to admit they're changing, but it's possible to you know, evolve your kind of consciousness within that dogmatic framework.
That's true. Yeah, that is very true. It's almost easy in a way to like still stay in it, but just tweak things around a bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Like bring the toolkit out, you know, like spruce it up, do something with it. Especially if you look at your life and you're like, I'm fucking miserable and I'm like sad all day, my body's getting out of control, all this stuff. It's like, well, you know, this is your framework that you're using to manage your entire life. Why don't you retool it a little bit? Like,
Yeah.
did God ever say there's exactly one only path and that's it? Yes, there is that, like the black and white thing, but if you can get beyond that just a couple paces, then you can retool it a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen people do that. Absolutely. On like an ongoing basis. It's pretty interesting to watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we're still in the same fishbowl, basically, you know, like, it's either let's not talk to each other and act like we don't exist, or, like, retool a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't see other
Well,
options.
what else is there to do unless you're all gonna just sit down and do some mushrooms?
That would probably be good.
It would be perfect. Every time I do mushrooms, I'm like, you know what? If everybody did these, if everybody ate these, I mean, I don't know about everybody because I know everybody is wired differently and some people are badly affected. So there's that. But I just get the notion that we would all be like about 1 billion steps ahead of where we are now, you know, if everybody would just eat a few of these and
Okay,
sit down for a few minutes.
Can you describe your very first ever mushroom experience and how, and the context surrounding how it came in, and did you accept immediately or reject, or were you having thoughts about whether you should do it or not?
So it was kind of a surprise. Like I never like smoked as a teenager or any of that. Like I was not into any of the whole like drug scene or anything like that as a young person. And so I guess I was about 26 or so. My boyfriend brought home some mushrooms from a friend at work, and like it was a pretty relaxed atmosphere. We were just at home and we only ate a little bit, so like I didn't really get the full effect that time at all. Now, like what I know now, it's the full effect.
Yeah.
So we just ate a few of them, and we watched Yellow Submarine.
Yellow Submarine?
Yeah. And I just noticed that like I was having much deeper thoughts, and much deeper things were coming out of my mouth than usual. And I just felt like, you know, more opened up and all that sort of thing. But that was nowhere near, that wasn't even close to the experiences that I've had in the last few years with mushrooms. That was just like a little teensy taste.
Okay, so describe if you could then your first actual dive, like your first actual immersion in the full on psilocybin experience. I know words don't do these things justice, but try to do your best.
Yeah, well, I'll give you like the first two, because the first one, it knocked me so hard off of my regular state of mind that I was kind of like out of it for a lot of the time. I would feel myself being pulled into these like tunnels of craziness, light, and all the visuals. But then I remember it would kind of just go black, and I knew that like something was rewiring me. I intuitively knew that, and I felt like I was just kind of being worked on, and I had to sort of be put under, so, like consciously, for that to take place, because I like some part of me knew that my regular mind couldn't handle everything that was going on. So it was still a really beautiful experience, though. I would like come back to every so often and like be crying and releasing stuff, and then I would be pulled back under with the next wave, and it went on that for I don't know, like 8 hours or so.
And you were doing this by yourself?
I was with a friend.
What was your external setting?
Just a living room. It was pretty basic. We didn't I didn't try to make it. What I did before I took the mushrooms was just ask the question, who am I? I want to know who I am. So whenever I take mushrooms now, that's what I do. I ask a question beforehand, and a lot of times it's the same one, like just show me more of who I am. And it always does. Just when I think I got to all of it, there's more. There's a lot more.
Oh yeah.
It just keeps going.
It's big.
Yeah.
Did you ever do them in like a woodsy setting or an outdoors, or like go swimming or something?
No, I haven't. I would love to.
Yeah, like when I was doing my dark night thing, which lasted a really long time, like 10 years or something, or 15, I don't know how many years it was, but
Jesus
long
Christ.
time. I was researching a lot of drug experience reports. I was a frequenter of Arrowwood.org, and I read, like, I got into the minds of literally everybody who was doing whatever, and
Yeah.
I kind of used that as a framework for my experience with weed. And my experience with weed was not like anybody else's experience with weed, and it was like, if anything, to me it was like the strongest possible thing I couldn't ever go stronger than that, basically. And it was a bunch of ego deaths and a bunch of like, some of it was kind of good. It was mainly traumatic, but I learned so much out of it.
Yeah.
And the trauma that came from that one experience literally lasted that 10 years.
Wow.
It was from like, I don't know, 21, 22, and the integration of that and all of the stuff that came along in my personal life went all on until, I don't know, when I broke up with my ex, which was like late 2016. So it's been like a year and a half that I've kind of more fully come into my own, and not having all of these like massive weights and restrictions and fears and all this other stuff like bearing me down. So I've just barely come out of the very traumatic part of it, and I'm barely starting to like come out and play, basically.
It takes a long time. I feel like I'm kind of right there with you. Yeah, I feel like I'm just now starting to I'm just on the very edge of starting to be able to almost express like my real self. I've been hiding behind religion for a long time, and then I don't know, just regular life, work, trying to have a normal life.
That's the prime way to hide yourself, though. That's like the
Yeah.
most convenient scapegoat, is making a living. Like, that's the number way to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, I feel like that's good. I feel like the realm is supposed to be as traumatic as possible, and the most trauma leads to the most spiritual growth, as far as I understand.
It feels that way. It really does. And sometimes I'm like, wow, does it really need to be this much? 'Cause
Right.
break.
Right. I mean, it's like world-shattering stuff. It's not a joke, What you experience during those trips is literally like, it's dismemberment, it's torture, it's mental anguish, and then tied and wrapped up intricately with the good emotions. Not
Yeah.
necessarily, but it gets interwoven as this fabric that you're experiencing, that you come back. and try to tell somebody about it, and they're like, "What the hell are you talking about?" Like,
Yeah.
you know, there's no way to describe it except for someone who has done it and come back as like what Og talks about in Christian. They talk about a coherence, like maintaining coherence from the trip, and they're not getting so fragmented that they come back absolutely traumatized and they have to go back into the regular world and the complete mask, and you don't ever see them again. You know, like
Yeah.
I feel like it's somewhat of an accomplishment if you can go through something like that and maintain your continuity to be able to explain to other people afterward.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess for me, like, I wouldn't say that I've had really traumatic experiences with mushrooms. Like, I've had traumatic experiences with life, regular life.
Right.
But with mushrooms, it's always been really beautiful. Even when it gets really, really dark. Because somehow I know, like, I'm asking to see this. And
Yeah.
I want to see all the good and all of the dark. And I guess I've kind of made peace with that, so it doesn't really fragment me too much. And I like to sort of try to bring what I get from those experiences and try to, as best I can, like, incorporate it into my regular day-to-day, trying to kind of live as a meditation. It's not easy, and I don't do it all the time at all, but I think you talk about that a little bit, like trying to make just regular life as meditative as possible.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm always doing. It's never
Yeah.
ever stopped since I figured out that was like the wisest way to be.
Yeah.
And it becomes more that the projection system or the future past, like ruminating that you do in your present moment, you can see that more as play rather than this dictator system. Because before you come out into awareness, it's literally a dictator system, and you don't even know it exists. Like, you don't know about the past and the future. You don't know about the present. You don't really know about any of it.
Mm-hmm.
You're literally like the deterministic puppet, you know, getting bangled around, and you don't know you're the puppet, and you don't know there's a thing above you. Like, you have no clue whatsoever.
Right, you're totally blind.
Yeah.
That's been one of my main, like, requests in the last year. Like, just take my blinders off. I want to be able to see, like, really see, you know, everything. And it peels off in layers, so you got to be patient with it. Because if it came off all at once, you just have your mind, like, completely blown.
Yeah. Yep.
Fuses blown.
You get fractured.
Yeah, but it's been frustrating for me because I feel like it's too slow sometimes.
Well,
Come on.
one of the ways that I dealt with or came to live my life afterward is I started interweaving the whole thing into my very personal experience. So, like, all the cars going by, the planes overhead, the internal thoughts, all of the interactions with the people, I let that become into the personal, intimate life rather than being like me and then there's that over there. And then in that way, it allows the onion to unveil itself a little bit faster and in a more personal, a little bit more friendly way than if you're like, oh, all that's out there.
Yeah. Do you have a trick for, like, staying in that mental space? Or it's just practice?
Just remembering what the present is, like, always, because you always drift out of it. Especially
Right.
if you're talking with somebody else, you're going into their mind and you're like
Exactly.
traveling down these intricacies, and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, you know, okay, I'm present. Like, look around, you know, hear the sounds, recenter yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you have some sort of a trick, I used to give, like, I would tell people sometimes, like, that have trouble staying present, like, tie, you know, it's a string around your finger, and then if you're feeling anxious, like, look at the string, and then remember what that means. That just means be present, and then you focus back in. If you have
Right.
if you have bad emotions going on, don't run from them. Like, go into it, feel it, cry, laugh, do whatever you need to do, and then come out the other side, and then you're free again. Like, you become free again from all these imprisonments that you can't see.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, because I do notice, like, because I do live driving too,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes I'll get a passenger, and, well, oftentimes I'll get a passenger, and we'll have some sort of conversation, and they'll get out, and I'll just be, like, completely out of my space that I was in before they got in my car, you know? Because I get pulled in pretty hard to other people's worlds.
Right.
And it takes me, like, sometimes I just have to pull over and turn off the Lyft app and just sit for a while and, like, get back to myself because I've been pulled out so hard in the other direction.
Yeah, yeah. It's good to have a practice to reestablish your centering.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter. Like, there's a certain part of the whole thing that's outside of your grasp. So no matter how good you are at centering and meditating and staying present, it doesn't matter. There's gonna stuff come. It's gonna knock you off your feet, and then you're gonna have to deal with it. But then you still have the tools to come back after whatever. Like yesterday.
Yeah.
Yesterday was kind of a train wreck for me as far as dealing with shit. But then I know how to do it, and I also have people like in there helping me and seeing the thing and helping out and stuff. So I come out
That's
on the
good.
other side, and I hopefully learn something from it. And that's how you actually get the thing out of that experience. Is you're slowly building up your toolkit, which is all these things that you have to help if it gets bad, and then when the train comes and smashes you, then you know what to do about it at that point.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
Wow, that's good. I'll have to put some sort of practice in place, like a more, I don't know, mindful or put together practice in place to get myself back to center a little bit.
Try the string.
Yeah, I'll try the string. I like that.
There was a book. What was the book? I can never remember anything ever. I don't remember. A very popular book. Literally, like I could forget the president if I was trying to remember like the current president. If I wanted to tell a story about him, he would just go out of my mind completely.
Right. It's so frustrating.
I have no control over what like facts present themselves when I want them. I just have the impression of them.
And later on, you'll be like, "Oh yeah, I could have." Yeah, it all comes back.
Right. It's the psychedelic guy. The guy who did. He wrote,
McKenna.
Not McKenna.
No.
It's like a George Orwell same era guy. What is his name? I've talked about him so many times. It's not Leary. It's he wrote books. He wrote like 4 books. He wrote more than that, but anyway, in one of the stories, there's a bird. Like they're in this forest, and there's a bird that says like it squawks out "Be here now" at various points. Like it literally yells those words, and they taught this parrot thing to do that all the time, and that's like their string basically.
Nice.
Yeah. So just whatever you can do to remember, because it's just that you forget it. That's the only thing. There's nothing else about it. You forget that the present is what exists, and then all of a sudden you're off down this thing, which is still the present, but you've lost your anchor point.
Yeah. Maybe an anchor tattoo would work.
Yeah.
I have no tattoos yet, so.
Yeah, like write down whatever that word, the present, means to you in other words. Make up a little collage of words, and then go look up some images that resonate with those, and maybe you can compile a tattoo that can remind you of the present.
Yeah, that might be a good idea. Gotta do something.
There's never anything to do. Like you just.
Yeah, that's true.
You just be. There's nothing to do.
But there's so much to do at the same time.
It's just infinite paradox.
So much possibility.
So what's next?
I'm doing a road trip. That's what I'm doing next.
Really?
Yeah, at the end of the summer.
Do you have a destination in mind, or are you just gonna hit the road and see what happens?
I'm probably going to head up north a little ways and then out west.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
All the way to the west coast.
Oh, you'll have to visit then if you make it to California.
Okay, I'm down.
And I can introduce you to all the Californians and others that I know up and down the coast. There's not a ton of them, but there is a decent enough connects. I've thought about that, like making a road trip and telling everybody like I'm coming out and trying to do that, but before I always got caught up in the whole like the dark is going to try to sabotage and this and that, and I didn't want to deal with that back then. I don't know. I'm in more of a self-protected place than I was before, so I could probably pull it off better now. As far as not attracting that possibility.
Yeah, I feel you. For me, it's been like a long time in the making, I've been wanting to do this for years, and every time I would get close, like something would just kind of like get in the way and stop it, or my own self would just get in the way and stop it, which it was all my own self anyways, every time stopping it, but...
Okay, how many people have you talked to this trip about?
How many people?
Yeah.
I don't know. A lot.
And how many people, like, got on board with it?
With, like,
in some fashion. No, in some fashion. Any support whatsoever.
I'd say 100%.
As far as, like, contributing to its happening after the initial conversation, how many people were on board?
How do you mean contributing?
Like reminding you, hey, are you still doing the thing? Or like, are you still thinking about this? Giving some input about your initial kind of like intent.
I haven't really had that.
Yeah. There you go. There you go.
I don't need it. I'm doing it.
Have you done it yet?
I'm doing it in September.
Good, good.
I'm trying to make as much money as I can this summer so that I can sustain myself for a few months on the road, hopefully.
Do you do Uber as well or just Lyft?
Just Lyft right now. I'm signed up with Uber, but I've never actually done it.
How are the rides in North Carolina? Does it keep you busy, or do you have to wait for 10 or 15 minutes sometimes?
It's so strange. It's sometimes it's like back to back, and sometimes I wait for half an hour or an hour, and then I'm like, fuck it, I'm going home.
Yeah.
So I've noticed that it kind of more depends on my state of mind as to what kind of rides I get and how many I get and that sort of thing. Like if I'm feeling really desperate, I'll get nothing. And if I don't give a shit about driving that day, I'll be bombarded with rides all day long.
Yeah. That's how it is. Like when I was yesterday and the whole past week have been bad for me in terms of meeting my goals, is like with work, and it's directly tied in with everything else that's going on in my life, and me coming off of like this 30-day cleanse, and then I went back into old like shit that used to do, all like old bad habits, and that just opened the doors for the work thing to fall flat on its face, and it just didn't work, like it was just a bad, horrible thing, and I had to stop because I keep trying to press it, like I know how to do this. There's enough time to get enough rides, so I'm just gonna grind it and force it, and nope, that doesn't work. Like
it doesn't work.
At some point,
it's so funny to watch it.
It's bad, yeah. But like when I was doing the cleanse, and it was for 30 days, I was cleansing out these bad things, and my energy was up. All of the rides were coming in as they were supposed to, and more. Like I was making much more money. Since my energy was up, I was interacting and engaging the passengers, and they were excited that I was doing that, and they were happy, so they're like throwing tip money at me, and the whole thing is just doing its thing. And it all had to do with me doing my own inner work. Like it had nothing else to do with anything else.
Yep.
So like to remember that's another thing to remember, aside from remembering how to be present, is remember that your external happenings are directly tied into your inner work, 100%.
Yeah. And it's not something, when things are going badly, it's not something that you really want to own up to, because you're like, no, I'm fine. No, you're not, actually.
I'm going to force it. I'm going to force the circle into the square. It's going to work this time around.
Yeah. It always does, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's frustratingly perfect. It really is.
So what was the last real job, quote unquote, real job you had? I know you're doing photography. Was that your real thing, or did you have like some corporate gig?
So I grew up a gymnast. So I guess my last real job was down in South Florida. I was working as a head floor coach for a gymnastics club down there. So that was, I mean, it was a great job. The kids were super, super talented. It was fun in some aspects, but I got really burnt out in other ways. So I haven't wanted to coach again since then.
You never had your own practice, or kind of were able to do it your way? Or did you have freedom? No?
No. It was very, especially down in South Florida, because I coached up here in North Carolina for most of my coaching career. And it was much more laid back. But down in South Florida, man, they don't play around. They're very serious. And if your kids are not winning, which my kids were winning, it was one of the top clubs down in South Florida. We were one of the best. And we did really well, but it was a lot of pressure. And I had to coach in a way that I shouldn't say I had to coach in a way that I didn't like, but I felt pressure to coach in a more forceful way that I didn't want to I didn't want to be that way with kids. You know,
involving like strictness and discipline and things like that.
Yeah, just a little too much.
Yeah.
And it's just not the way that I would do things. It's good to have structure, it's good to have discipline, but to a certain level.
Right.
So, yeah.
I coached a little bit. I coached a chess club for like a year or so.
Nice.
And it was just a local school, and I was able actually to like do my own thing because in terms of rating, I was better than all of the instructors, so they kind of like recognized that, and they're like, here's the framework, and you do your thing. Like I would go off and just talk to them how I felt like it, and then I could teach how I wanted to, and it was good. Like I knew that was sort of a blessing to be able to be in that position, because I knew that in most of the teaching capacities, it's all what you're describing, where there's this forceful framework and the kids don't really enjoy it, and it's not really conducive to letting them freely express, rather than try and like win a medal for repeating the same moves properly.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I would love to be able to open some kind of a gym where like kids could just come and like express themselves freely through dance or gymnastics or however they wanted to, and they could have instruction too, but it would just be like a more free-flowing thing.
Yeah.
Maybe one day.
That's the challenge here. That's not the only challenge, but that's one of the challenges, is being able to match up making money, which is a requirement in the realm, to not losing your soul. So, and somewhere in the middle of that, maybe only give off a couple shaves of your soul and still make money and survive, But you're trying to find some middle ground where you're actually giving yourself, like your genuine self, because that's what the kids want. They don't want this nonsense regurgitated bullshit and be graded in numbers, and no kid wants that. Like, that's how they get shut down, and they come out mindless zombies, McDonald's munching, like TV ingesting. It's just not good. So to be able to, that's part of our challenge at this present moment, is to find ways to get past our own insecurities, which are obviously there, and be able to accept help from others and collaborate and get to that point where you can do your dance class that's free and expressive, and you can actually make some money from it as well, and you're not, the shadow government doesn't come hunt you down and shut you down because you're doing holistic things. Like, all these things are interplaying in there, and that's part of the challenge.
Yeah, it just seems that the challenge is a little unbalanced. Like, I get that there needs to be a challenge, but don't you feel like do you feel like it's a little tilted on one side, a little bit too heavy over here?
It's very tilted. That's why it's called the upside down. That's what the realm.
Yeah, it's completely.
Yeah, it's
flipped.
It's backwards. But we've been through the donkey show many times. We don't remember it because of memory wipes and stuff, but we've, like, as beings, I feel in my soul that I've done this many times, and that sort of knowledge informs how I act now, even though it's not at a conscious, like, plucking, from, it's there. So I feel like we're refining and we chose the gauntlet basically to run through this time around, or else maybe it was just on a series of things that we had to go through and clean the karma or whatever, however you want to frame it. But
Yeah.
it's as difficult as you want it to be, and as difficult as you isolate yourself. If you allow other people in to help your journey, then it won't be as difficult. Like that was another lesson I had to learn as well, because I went through all the trauma and I isolated, and then I medicated, alcoholized myself into a stupor and didn't talk with anybody. I didn't let any help in whatsoever. So that was part of my that was another lesson for me, was allow other people to like see your situation, give feedback, change your inner perceptions a little bit. Like, you don't need to be such a stick in the mud, like hide in the cave type of a thing.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I'm just right now starting to like peek out from the cave a little bit and be like, maybe I can be your friend. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's a matter of trauma, or like for me, when I was doing creative things before, getting no response whatsoever, like at all.
Right. Yeah.
And like that stuff is big, if you're creative and you do something and nobody appreciates whatsoever, then you're like, I suck basically, and I'm going to stop doing anything.
Yeah, unless you know that you have to do it just for you.
Mine wasn't that nice. Like, I didn't get all that intrinsic joy from my creations. I kind of did, but I don't know. Like,
you also want it to be noticed. And
yeah.
You have a message that you're trying to share usually.
Yeah.
With your creative things. Yeah.
We need acknowledgement by other people with what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it's fine to go off and meditate in the cave and be enlightened and stuff, but you actually need to come out sometimes to like interact and play and do stuff. Otherwise, it's just boring.
Yeah. Otherwise, you may as well not have incarnated at all. You should just stay as the whole oneness, right, and be that thing.
Stay in the void. Why did you come here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Either you're being a guru and trying to like dupe people out of their money, or you should be back in the void. Like, why are you here in the first place?
But does it have to be about money? Can it be about anything else?
That's the challenge.
I'm so bored with the money thing. I'm so over it.
Well,
but I know at the same time it is like this necessary thing in this realm, and it is just a form of energy that I need to learn to play with. But I hate it.
Money is the most protected thing in this realm. The most.
No doubt. No doubt.
Why are all the biggest, fanciest, nicest buildings about money? Like, money is in there, they're protecting money, they're guarding money, they're managing money, they're doing all this stuff about money. That's just what it does. Like, money is that thing. But what I noticed in my personal life is, as far as external things that are directly bothering me, which I don't like, I tried to get rid of all of that. Money was the last remaining thing. Everything else literally went away and stopped bothering me. But money remained as like some sort of bother. Unless I'm going to become homeless and beg for, McDonald's or something, which I don't want to do.
No, I don't either.
So money's there, but money's like the AI thing. It's not. It's either the AI thing or it's dark overlords, playing games. It's not humans that are doing the money system. That's realm framework that you have to deal with.
Got you. Yeah. Yeah. It is.
Did we miss any of the talking points? I don't know. I don't think so.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if we had talking points.
we had Jehovah's Witness, mushrooms, and one other, I think. Oh,
those. There was one more, right? Yeah, there was 3.
I don't remember.
It's not be that important.
Did your God damn it! Sorry. Did you ever make money off of photography or your artistic side?
Occasionally, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. For a while, I was trying to make it like my full-time job, and I was pushing hard for it, and it just. I mean, it was kind of working, but then I was also frustrated with the fact that it was working because I didn't like the kind of clients I was getting. I was having to do, weddings that I hated, and
Yeah.
So there was that whole aspect of it, and so then I decided I would try to make it more of like an artistic expression. And now I'm trying to learn how to paint, so I'm kind of a little bit more focused on that right at this moment. So
Good. I've thought about a lot of things, but I've thought about trying to do professional photography because I like taking photos and stuff and making art. But I thought about it and I was like, the only people that make money are wedding people. Like, that's where the money is for I can't talk, professional photographers.
yeah,
But unless you're like exploring unknown regions of the world and taking pictures of exotic waterfalls, you're not really
right.
where are you gonna make money, you know?
Yep, it's true.
It's weddings, so,
it's weddings.
and I don't like weddings, so I mean, like,
nope.
So there's that, but I feel like the energy is coming around to allow people to do more so move in the direction of making money doing things that they care about.
It feels that way, and it just feels like it's a very slow moving thing, but at the same time it also coincides with like where you are. Like, I feel like the more that I express myself authentically, I'll, and that's going to be a process because I'm just starting that, which is so sad, but it is what it is. I've been in crazy boxes all my life.
Yep.
But I feel like the more I'm able to do that, then the more I'll be out there in my authentic way, and other opportunities will start to present themselves. At least I like to hope so.
It does. It does happen, but it never happens how you want it to, and you always have to reframe your expectations based on how like your input actually does something, because in a realm that's technically upside down, normally if you really want something, you get the opposite, or else, and then you're like, all right, I don't want that thing a whole lot, and then you're like, no, you don't get the opposite of that and get what you want, you get some other weird thing. So,
it's true. It's so true.
So it's skewed in a direction that we can't really understand. That's the best way I can put it. And like you said, being the ultimate genuine, to me, that's reaped the most rewards. That's just me personally.
It just feels good.
Yeah.
On the inside, and once you come to a place where that's the most important thing to you is like being true to yourself and not betraying yourself, then that's all that really matters. And I've kind of gotten to that point where like I can't, like, I've literally applied for and interviewed for and gotten 3 regular jobs this year since December.
Really?
I've gotten 3 different jobs, and the day I'm supposed to start, I'm just like, I can't do it. And I don't show up because I just can't betray myself like that anymore. I know that I have other things to do here, and working in a regular 9-to-5 bullshit job is not one of them.
Yeah. I did the same thing. I tried to fit in. I did everything. I tried to be religious properly. I tried to get saved. I tried to do this. Tried to do school right. Tried to do the regular job thing. I tried all of it. Like, nobody can fault me for trying. I've done it and tried it, and it never ever worked. And I always got spit out the other end, like regurgitated out of the mouth of the beast. And it's like, no, we don't want you. So
get out of here.
Go away. We don't want you. So I went off, and did my own thing, and it has, at the very least, I have had my needs taken care of. I haven't been on the street. There are people that care about me, and I have fallbacks and stuff like that. So like, I'm appreciative of how I've been treated overall, even though it's been traumatic.
Yeah. How is it in the car?
What do you mean?
Like, do you feel safe at night?
Oh yeah.
Or you're fine?
Yeah. I don't. If somebody came and like I would just play with them, like if they came and tried to break in or something. I mean, I have like psychic attacks sometimes at night, but I've been like through the dog and pony thing forever and a half, so like it's not ever a thing anymore.
What are those like?
I don't know. It's just like I'll wake up and like the most recent one was I woke up and I had fallen asleep listening to some YouTube channel, and I woke up and listening to this guy doing some sort of diatribe about something, and something about him was very off-putting to me, and like it triggered something, and I was like, oh, this thing is happening, so I got to defend somehow, and I did my thing, got out of whatever was happening as far as me internally, and then as I woke up, I came to realize it was Ty Lopez or whatever that guy's name is. That you probably know. Maybe you don't know.
I don't know him. Yeah.
He's this super annoying like internet guru guy that's on every single. He's like this dude, and he just came in and started harassing me, and I realized at that moment I was like, the guy he's profiting off of this dark energy. That's why I felt attacked by him.
Yeah. Okay.
And you know, I don't hold resentment toward him. Like, do your dark thing. I don't care. But you know, it was also partially before I was doing this thing of let's try and jump on these internet bandwagon like quick get rich quick or something, like, or make any money at all things, and none of it ever worked. Like, get rich or make any money, like, not. It was always like, take your money and, you know,
complete dead end.
Suffer for a little bit and then get spit out. It was always that. Like, there's never anything out of it. So I kind of like got via that psychic attack. I was like, he exposed himself to me personally as like this just snake oil guy, and like don't bother with that anymore. Like, that was kind of like a sign to me.
Got you. Okay.
So these things happen, you know, they happen sometimes, but I haven't had an actual attack really get me for a long time. And a part of going through mushrooms probably did some of that for you, because as you, like, this realm is connected to the spirit realms. They're all interwoven with each other, and when I feel bad or attacked or something, it's because something's going on out there that I can't see. So I have to do my little motions over here to. You just learn how to do it, basically. It's like it's some sort of a weird dance.
I think some of that stuff I'm like I'm aware of, but not enough aware of. I don't know.
Do you have attacks ever?
I don't. See, I'm not really sure. I don't. Maybe sometimes, but it's. I think I've become good at like either telling myself I'm just being crazy, or
that's a good one, actually. That's a good defense.
Ignoring it altogether.
Yeah.
So, I'm like lately, you know, in the past few years, I've started to be like, oh, maybe I'm not actually crazy. Maybe it's this other thing, you know. Maybe something's actually going on here that I need to like subtly pay attention to.
There is stuff going on. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not that.
Yeah.
It's not that it's not. It's just that. You have to come to the defense of that in the proper way. Like, you can't just go say, oh, I don't want to get psychically attacked, so I'm just gonna like learn. That coming to that might send you off onto the thing that is gonna show you how to learn it, but that itself won't teach you how to do it.
Yeah.
Like,
gotcha.
the knowledge that maybe you need protection might set in motion the, you know, the mechanism, but it's not like a get psychically defended quick, you know.
Yeah, and I don't know, I guess I'm just not that like I'm not that afraid of that sort of thing. So yeah. I know that like if I was getting that, it would already that mindset alone would dissolve it a bit.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, like especially with the mushrooms, they showed me like how to deal with demons.
Yeah?
And yeah. And it was pretty much like they were showing me how to like basically sing love at them or dance love at them. Mm-hmm. Like express in some way understanding, because like I was saying before, like every perspective is valid. Even the darkest perspective is valid. And if you can just look at it and sort of try to shed some love on that, as cliche and dumb as that sounds, it dissolves whatever negative thing is happening.
Yeah. And
I would like, the mushrooms put me in it was like a training scenario where I had all these demons coming at me, and in the vision, I had my eyes closed, I was like dancing and singing to these demons and like putting on a show.
Yeah.
And one by one, they just sort of like started to give me this sort of like shy little smirk, like someone finally saw them.
That's awesome.
You know?
Yeah.
And then they just kind of like softened up and lightened up and went on their way. Yep. It was really, really magical. Really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it lends light on what you are, you know, as a creator, as a living being, you know, like you you can interact with everything. There's not like a taboo. You can go interact with the devil and it sucks. Like I did it, you know, like you can go do whatever. You can go like anything. There's not a limit. The limit to me is my own internal moral structure and what I feel is correct or not. So if I go against that and I sort of like betray myself, I feel the most like shit when I do that, rather than like be mean to someone else, you know, because they can't handle it. It's me. It's like me betraying myself. That's when I feel bad.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Because everything else is subjective anyway. You can't know their moral spectrum anyway. So like, so long as you treat them as, you know, as decently as you can, maybe you'll offend them or not, but so long as you're doing the best you can, you're not responsible for that.
Right. Yeah, and for me, it's taken a long time to get to that mindset, because for so long, you know, my upbringing was always so like outwardly focused at like doing the right thing for, you know, the Christian God, or for Jehovah, or for my mom, or, you know, whoever.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, no, I need to do what's the right thing for me on the inside. That's got to be number one. And it sucks that it's been like such a long road to get to this point, but at least I'm here.
The long roads are fine. I mean, it's not easy. There's stuff.
Yeah.
And also,
I just have felt like, like for a long time, I felt like I'm just really far behind. Like
you're not far behind. That's self-judgment.
I don't know why I have that like underlying feeling. But
that means that you are very strict with yourself.
Maybe.
As I see it, you're not far behind at all.
Oh, that's good.
But
it's encouraging.
Yeah, but I mean, we isolate out. So if you're just having, if yourself is your only judge, then you can't get anybody else's perspective on where you're at, and you're always going to be your You're always going to be your harshest judge anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. So fun.
So.
We get all the points.
The points?
Did we hit all the points? We never remembered the third one, did we? That's okay.
Oh, the guy's name? Maybe that was the third point we're supposed to hit.
The guy's name?
Yeah, the author of the book.
Oh.
Aldous Huxley.
Oh, that's who you're thinking of?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
It was like Brave New World or something. It was one of those books.
Yeah.
I think it was Brave New World.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's a good book. And what did he say again? I already forgot.
Oh, he had the bird out in the woods, like singing "Be Here Now."
I love that.
Or squawking, however he did it.
I like it.
Lyft and Uber are also good, so when you come out to wherever, you can maybe keep working.
Is that true?
It's true, but in different, like, for instance, when I went to Vegas for my tournament, Uber said, you can't drive here, you know, asshole, you know, you're supposed to be in California, and Lyft was like, all right, go ahead, buddy, you know, go drive. So, like, It depends on the platform, and it also depends on, I think if a platform says, rejects you, I think you can just call them and say, hey, I'm here, you know, please approve me.
Really?
I think so, yeah.
Because I thought you had to only drive in the state where your license was issued.
I know for Lyft, I can drive in Vegas just off the bat.
Oh, that's great news. That's awesome.
And you're using Lyft, so maybe that's true, at least in some states. Maybe not the whole thing, but possibly in some states you're just
a few states. Yeah, that'd be great. That's awesome. Maybe I'll leave sooner then.
Look into it, like do some research and see.
Yeah, I will.
Maybe call Lyft. Lyft is, I like Lyft better as a company, so you probably have less trouble getting a hold of like an actual rep.
Yeah, they've always been really great. Like if I wasn't paid properly or whatever, they're on it pretty quick. So.
Have you done 1,000 rides?
If I haven't, I'm pretty close. I think I have. I don't even know. I don't really keep up with my stats that much.
They sent me a free jacket when I did 1,000 rides. So if you have done it,
I haven't. I don't have a jacket.
Yeah, it was a nice one. It was like a $50 jacket.
Really?
Yeah. Uber never sent me shit.
How long have you been driving for? many years?
Too long. I don't know. like 2 years, 2.5 years. I mean, full time. I've done it before that, but I wasn't sort of self-forced into doing it full time until the last like maybe 2 years or so.
Who's been like your favorite passenger? Do you have one? Or your least favorite passenger?
I don't have a particular favorite other than the people that are really engaging and interesting.
Yeah.
My least favorite passenger was
A couple days ago?
no. No. Like those guys, when I'm in a bad mood, then the passengers like turn off or something. They stop interacting altogether.
Oh.
But my least favorite, and she was also my favorite because she was crazy. But she was this 3.5 rating passenger that I don't know. I may have told this story, but it's a good one. So she was 3.5. Like I don't know if you've ever had a 3.5 passenger.
I don't know. I don't usually pay attention.
I don't think Lyft like rates the passengers in your face like.
It's not as big. It's like a little tiny icon thing.
Yeah. But on Uber, it always shows you their rating, and it's whatever out of 5, just like the drivers have.
Yeah.
And this girl had a 3.5, and in my experience, if anybody's less than like 4.6, it means they're on the rude spectrum. Anything but less than that, they're starting to be on the rude spectrum. And then if it's like 4.3, 4.2, then they're gonna like try and boss me around or do some ugly things.
Yeah.
3.5, I had no clue what to expect, so I was like,
Let's go see.
Yeah, I was thinking like, oh, it's probably a bad idea. You're probably gonna get mugged or something. And then, of course, like my curious side got the better of me, so I accepted the ride. And I picked up this girl, and she looked normal. She was this pretty young, I don't know, 22-year-old girl. Looked pretty decently normal. And she hopped in, and I was like, oh, okay, well, her rating is lying, it's nothing. And we started going. She started talking to me, and the first thing she said was, I'm getting ready to have a panic attack here, and I need to get to the hospital. And you need to get me to the hospital. So I was like, okay, I'm beginning to see, so this is good. So I asked her, okay, well, she said I need to get there by 5:30, and I had picked her up at, I don't know, 5:15 or something, and then the ride said it was going to take, 12 minutes, so we were going to get there barely in time. And as we're going along, she's telling me what's going on, why she's here and stuff, and she's like, I'm from Boston. Me and my dad had this huge argument, and I basically said, fuck you, and I'm going to go to California. And I'm like, okay, well, do you have money? Like, do you have any plans? Do you have a place to stay? Do you have anything going on? And she's like, no, I don't have anyone here. I don't have any friends. She's basically said she's just floating around with little to no money and about to have a panic attack. And so I was like, okay, be calm. And so she was kind of like belligerent as well. She was kind of pushy and trying to push my buttons and stuff. And I'm trying to like rebuff her stuff and not let her get all up in my face and just keep it calm. And we started getting close to the hospital. And this was before I knew San Francisco well, so I didn't know the situation. And we got to the hospital, and it turns out that there wasn't a hospital, and there wasn't anything at that address. It was just an address. And so, you can imagine what I'm thinking at that point, because this girl's like, I'm having a panic attack and I need my pills. And I have to tell her, like, there's no hospital here, like, dumbass. Like, where's the address? I didn't tell her that, but I said, there's no hospital here. I don't know what, maybe you gave me the wrong address. Let me see your address.
Yeah.
So she pulls out this, like, prescription book thing, and
Oh, God.
I looked at it, and I looked at the address, and the address was correct, but she put the wrong zip code, so it made it seem like it was in San Francisco when it was really, like, in San Jose. So I told her that, and I was like, well, we're not going to get there on time for the thing to be open still, but, I can drive you there, I guess, and maybe you can, like, go to the emergency room, and they can hook you up somehow. And she just, like, went off, and she started threatening me and really, like, coming in across the thing, and yeah, she was, like, talking about how she was making actual threats. She was talking about I don't even remember exactly what she said. I just know she was being violent. And at some point, I just got fed up with it, and I was like, all right, this is too much. You're just gonna have to get out. Like, I'm not gonna keep going anymore. And you know, I was like, get out. You know, I pulled over and told her to get out, and she didn't like that very much. She got more in my face, and I had a stare down with her for like 10 or 15 seconds, and eventually she broke and she just got out. And you know, I went on my merry way. It was that was bad though. That's the only person out of 10,000 plus rides that I've ever had to kick out.
Wow.
I've had one guy kick himself out because he didn't like how I was being, but I never had to actually kick anybody out.
Do you get in a lot of arguments with people?
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm pretty easygoing. You know, you have to do something pretty bad to get me pissed off at you. This guy was he was telling me like he was telling me the radio was the wrong volume. He was telling me the windows shouldn't be down. He was telling this in a very like snobby, just like bossing me around kind of way. And I put up with the first 3 or 4 demands, and then after like the 5th one, and he's back there with his wife, I was like, no, not doing it.
You're done.
I was like, your privileges are done here, you know. And you know, he didn't like that either. So after, I don't know, a minute or so, he taps me on the shoulder, and I'm like, oh, he wants to fight, you know. So I was like, what do you want? And he's like, Gatti. He's an Indian guy. He's like, Gatti, we will get out now. We're gonna. I was like, be my guest, please. And so he got out. Him and his wife got out. You know, they were halfway there. It was another 2 miles before they were supposed to be there.
Wow, I've never had anybody bossy like that. Nobody's ever complained about the radio, or like sometimes they'll say turn the AC up because they're hot and I'm usually cold.
This is how he said it. He said, no, we're not gonna have that station. That's how he worded his order. So like after the first one, I almost laughed because like I couldn't get it. You know, I couldn't comprehend what he was trying to do, but I catered to his demands for the first 3 or 4, and then I was like, no, you're done.
Wow. Glad he let himself out.
Me too. Yeah, it was good. Yeah. I don't know. It's been interesting. I don't like bosses anyway, so like as far as the environment goes, it's just that you're not having a real social anything going on. You're having like different people every single time, so.
Yeah, for me it's been like really good for me to just like kind of come out of my shell a little bit.
Oh yeah.
And meet with people like one-on-one, which I'm better at than, you know, in large groups and stuff like that. It's just, I don't know, building social skills that I'd never really built as a young adult because I was in a cult and all this other stuff.
It's like a public speaking course. That's what I kind of likened it to, because I was introverted before, you know.
Right.
And after 10,000 random people that I have to talk to come through, then it's like everyone becomes the same face. Unless you're interesting, but then like I don't have the shyness there with people that I actually want to talk to.
Right. Yeah, it's a confidence builder, but then at the same time you start to notice yourself like telling the same stories and talking about the same nothing.
Yeah. I don't know, you can come up with like new pleasantries and like try experiments and stuff.
Yeah.
You know. Sometimes because I get to the point sometimes where I'm so bored of having random strangers in my car that I just don't say anything, and then I realize that that's even more boring. So I'll come up with ways to actually get them to say something interesting rather than just hello, how are you? Good, how are you? Good, and then silence for the rest of the trip. You know.
Right.
So like I'll say like what's the craziest thing you've done today, or what I'll ask them like what kind of exciting plans do you have? Something that's a little bit loaded so they know that I don't just want their bullshit like I'm going to coffee with my friends story.
Yeah.
You can entice them to share something actually interesting.
Yeah, I like that.
Yep. And also like I don't know if you decorate your car at all, but I have all these things up here, and it's like conversation points for people, and I have the tip jar, and I have Reiki advertised up there, and all this other stuff to
nice.
create.
I just have a dream catcher. That's about it.
Yeah. Yeah, decorate it. Make it like your little, you know,
Cozy home.
cozy home,
Yeah.
your sacred space. Because you're dealing with all their energy anyway. So if you strengthen your energy field in there, then you won't necessarily have to pull over and like regroup every 5 minutes.
Right. Yeah. That's probably true. I'll do that.
Do it.
Nice. I will. A show.
Well, I think this is the end of the show, or getting close to it.
Okay.
Um,
It's been fun. It's not been as bad as I thought.
it wasn't bad at all, was it? Was it bad?
I don't think so. I don't know. It's hard to tell if you're not watching.
If you're gonna go back and rewatch it, you're gonna judge yourself. But I feel like it was pretty good.
Cool.
Do you have any closing thoughts? I don't know if we covered everything. I still feel like there was an elusive third element, but I don't know.
Could always revisit it later.
Yeah.
Closing thoughts? I don't know.
Oh,
Hmm.
you have a YouTube channel, yes?
I do, yes.
Do you upload at all regularly or recently, or is it just old stuff?
I have a few recent things. I'm trying to start uploading more regularly,
Okay.
but at the same time, like when I put myself on a schedule, then my creativity goes away. So
Yeah.
it's a tough balance. But I'm gonna be posting more regularly, and I'm definitely gonna be posting when I go road tripping. So yeah, there will be more stuff up there.
Would you like me to share any of those in the description box so people can access?
Sure. Yeah, I'll send you the links.
Okay, cool.
Does that work?
Yeah. So just send me the YouTube one and your Instagram and or personal webpage if you would like those as well.
Okay. I will.
All right.
Yeah, it was good talking to you.
Yes. Thank you, Andrea. I think that's correct.
Yep, that's
Yes.
correct.
We'll do it again sometime.
Okay, sounds good. Anytime.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Talk to you soon, Kate.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Don't mean to put all her stuff out there, but it looks like this is all PG. So. I'm not editing this out either. I'm way too lazy for that.